It's about time that we do a check-in on a couple of Utah Jazz pieces that ended up getting shipped out and just understanding how much they meant to the team for one, as well as how they're doing with their new organization. Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Wraith Hoops. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more NBA content. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji were two key cogs in the machine for the Utah Jazz from a role player point of view. Now, Agbaji was obviously less important to the team in comparison to Kelly Olynyk, simply because Kelly Olynyk was that point guard for the second unit. He was the man that distributed the rock and helped alleviate some of the stress from Keontae George's shoulders, as well as Jordan Clarkson from a playmaking perspective. He also provided a strong sense of rebounding as well as shooting from his own arsenal, and he always just seemed to be a very good decision maker. Defensively, he left a little bit to be desired, but he was backed up by Walker Kessler in that same lineup, and that afforded him to be able to make certain mistakes. The only really big gripe about his game that anybody ever had was the fact that he did tend to be more foul prone, and that limited the amount of usability that he had. For Ochai Agbaji, it was more so a situation where he was the second-year sensation that they were hoping would take that next step in his role, but ultimately really didn't. In transition, you saw a lot of lobs from Kelly Olynyk, throwing it up there, letting Agbaji get out there and run, get airborne, and boom that thing home. But it also put us into a position where that was really all you saw from Agbaji. His three-point percentage was never particularly great, and in traditional sets, he didn't really see much success on his own. Though he was a very good role player in my eyes, he just didn't reach the expectations that he necessarily needed to at this point in his career, and ultimately they felt like it would be more beneficial to them to part with him if it was a means of getting that first-round draft pick. In that trade, we found that Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji were actually going to end up getting shipped out in exchange for Otto Porter Jr., who ended up actually recently retiring, as well as Kira Lewis Jr., who kind of rides the pine at the moment, and then a 2024 first-round pick that's going to be in the latter half of the draft. Admittedly, that first-round pick is just as good as the beginning of the second round, but at the same time, it's a first-round pick nevertheless. For Kelly Olynyk, it symbolizes an opportunity for him to go home because he is originally from Canada. Though it may not be from Toronto, it's still significantly closer to where he was than particularly most places in the United States would be. For Ochai Agbaji, it offered him to have a little bit of a fresh start. It allowed him to use more of his defensive capabilities that he showcased for the Utah Jazz on a team that would also appreciate them, but also might allow for him to showcase more of his game and put him in less of a capsule that expects him to be a specific type of player, regardless of how he feels about it on any given night, and regardless of his skill set, honestly. Because in my eyes, he never really appeared to be a great 3-and-D player, and he had too much athleticism to keep him contained in just a very specific offensive role. I felt like he needed more of an opportunity to just explore the player that he is at the moment, especially at the NBA level, because it is different from college. In college, there are a lot more system players and a lot more systematic organizations as far as the game plan and what players' roles are. At the NBA level, that changes on its head, and you see a lot of guys don't make that transition. And for the Utah Jazz, at least, they didn't feel like Ochai Agbaji would make the transition for them in the way that they necessarily needed him to. In this season, Kelly Olynyk played 50 games and started in 8 of them when injuries had arose. He played 20.4 minutes a night, shooting 56.2% from the field and 42.9% from the three-point line, along with 84.2% from the free throw line. He also averaged 5.1 rebounds, a career-high 4.4 assists to go along with 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks, and just 1.6 turnovers. He totaled 8.1 points on a nightly basis, which gave him a very solid stat line as a bench role player that came in for that front line and allowed for a little bit more mixability and variability amongst the lineups that Will Hardy and that coaching staff elected to run. He was a very solid piece, and honestly, he was one of the biggest losses that the Utah Jazz ended up incurring at the trade deadline, despite the pieces that they ended up getting back in return. For Toronto, he has found himself in an even better position, as he now has played 15 games with them, starting in 6 of them, averaging 24 minutes a night, shooting 50.4% from the field, 34.1% from 3 on an extra 3-point attempt per game, to go along with 77.8% from the free throw line, again with an extra free throw added in there, alongside 5 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.5 steals, and 0.7 blocks per game, with only 1.9 turnovers to show. He has also upped his scoring average back into the double figures with 11.8. All in all, Kelly Olynyk has really stepped up his game a little bit and showcased what Toronto really wanted from him. Now, he is a savvy veteran that doesn't have a significant portion of his career left to go, but by and large, you know exactly what you're getting from Kelly Olynyk night in and night out. He's always a consistent player. He shows very few shooting inconsistencies, and for the most part, his game is predicated on great rebounding as well as playmaking. And when it comes to building a championship caliber team, you want to be able to put yourself in a position to where you have a big that has the ability to playmake to some degree, because it allows you to have an extra degree of variability within your offensive sets and still prevents things from being too stagnated when you're playing against the top teams in the NBA. Being unpredictable is a very important thing in today's game, and with the league going towards the positionless basketball aspects of things, Kelly Olynyk is a very desired commodity of a player as well as an archetype just to have on anybody's roster. Hence why the Toronto Raptors were willing to end up trading for him. And while they really didn't give up any significant piece in their rotation, it was nice to see him be able to go over to that team in his home country and really showcase what he's really good at. Ochai Agbaji is a little bit different in the fact that with the Utah Jazz, he played in 51 games, started in 10 of them, and averaged 19.7 minutes a game. Now, he shot 42.6% from the field and 33.1% from 3, to go along with 75% shooting from the free throw line. He also averaged 2.5 rebounds, 0.9 assists, 0.5 steals, and 0.6 blocks, with only 0.7 turnovers. Now, he averaged 5.4 points, which is a far cry from the 7.9 that he averaged on the previous season, and his shooting percentage were also leaving much to be desired on less attempts, by the way. In his rookie season with the Utah Jazz, he attempted 6.5 field goals and shot 42.7% from the field on those, to go along with 3.9 three-point attempts, shooting 35.5% from 3. This contrasts by comparison to this year, where overall he's only taken 4.9 attempts with the Utah Jazz and shot 42.6% from the field, and took 2.8 three-point attempts and only shot 33.1% on them. Fast forward to after the trade deadline, where he's playing with the Toronto Raptors, and in his 15 games, he finds himself starting in 7 of them. Now, he's averaging 19.5 minutes a game, shooting 36.6% from the field on 6.2 field goal attempts. He also shoots 23.1% from the three-point line on a career low 2.6 three-point attempts per game. He shoots 73.9% from the free throw line, and then rounds it out with 2.4 rebounds, 0.9 assists, 0.5 steals, 0.5 blocks, and just 0.7 turnovers, to go along with a measly 5.3 points per game. Overall, Ochai hasn't had the ability to really showcase who he is as a player, and I feel like he's kind of still finding his way with the Toronto Raptors. It doesn't seem like he's really the most comfortable, whereas Kelly Olynyk seemed to have fit a lot more seamlessly into their system. You would think that Ochai Agbaji at 6'5" and 250 pounds is a little bit of a rangier wing type player that has the ability to do what the Toronto Raptors like to do most, which is play great defense and really just get after it on offense, whether it be transition plays, whether it be the enhanced shooting that we've seen from Scottie Barnes and players of his caliber, or just in the case of Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk, bringing in pieces that have the ability to play make or rebound well or really defend and just help give a little bit of a boost, considering they just traded away Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby to the Knicks and Pacers respectively. I think that in the long term, Ochai is going to find his way. I do hope that it is with the Toronto Raptors, because at this point, if he finishes this season and goes into next year, finishing out his rookie contract and plays a similar style of basketball, he probably won't be in the NBA for much longer, and his home will probably be either at home or overseas. Kelly Olynyk has shown the ability to extend his opportunity with this particular team, and since he was on an expiring contract, it also bodes well for him that the Raptors will ultimately end up re-signing him and keeping him there in his home country. Ochai Agbaji naturally has a longer road to go, but I do believe there's still room and opportunity for him to showcase what he's good at and improve or avoid the things that he's not necessarily the greatest at putting forth in NBA contests. Those two guys were integral to the run that the Utah Jazz made before the trade deadline, and nobody can take that away from them. Alongside Simone Fontecchio, who was also traded at the deadline, these two pieces lost were a big reason why the team took a step back after the trade deadline and ultimately finds himself back into the draft lottery with a top 10 pick this coming off season. But you guys let me know how you felt about Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji's time with the Utah Jazz, and let me know what you think they'll end up doing with the Toronto Raptors and if you like what they've done so far. With that being said, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Thanks for tuning in this video. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, as well as become a member of the channel to help support the content. With that being said, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you guys are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in to this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.